My family always had a talent for making ordinary moments feel like trials. Not the dramatic kind you see in movies, no shouting crowds or flashing cameras. Just quiet cruelty, disguised as standards, expectations, and that sharp tone people use when they think they're better than you. For most of my life, I was the inconvenient one. The one who didn't fit their image. My older sister, Vanessa, had always been the golden child. Perfect hair, perfect smile, perfect resume. She worked in luxury real estate, the kind where people talk about properties the way normal people talk about groceries. My parents adored her. They introduced her proudly at every gathering, bragging about her listings, her connections, the wealthy clients who trusted her taste. And then there was me. Elaine, the one who worked quietly in the background, building something they never bothered to understand. I wasn't loud. I didn't flaunt my life. I didn't post vacations or designer bags. So to them, that meant I was nothing. And that's how it stayed, until the night they decided to humiliate me in public. It started with a charity gala at the Halston Country Club. The kind of place where the carpets are thicker than most people's paychecks, and the air smells like expensive perfume and old money. Vanessa had invited the whole family. It wasn't for me. It was for show. My mother spent 3 hours getting ready, criticizing my dress the entire time. "That color washes you out," she said, adjusting her earrings. "You should have borrowed something from your sister." "I'm fine," I replied calmly. Dad barely looked up from his phone. "Just don't embarrass us," he muttered. That was always the warning. Don't embarrass us. As if my existence was already a risk. When we arrived, the club was glowing under warm golden lights. Luxury cars lined the entrance. People laughed like nothing in the world had ever touched them. Vanessa spotted us immediately. She swept toward us in a silver gown, smile sharp enough to cut glass. "There you are," she said brightly. Then her eyes flicked to me. "Wow, you actually came." "I was invited," I said. Her laugh was soft, poisonous. "Well, technically." My mother leaned close, whispering like a secret. "Just stay quiet tonight, Elaine. This is Vanessa's world. Vanessa's world. Not ours. Not mine. Hers." Inside, the ballroom buzzed with wealthy donors and polished executives. Servers carried champagne like it was water. Vanessa floated through the crowd, introducing our parents to people who mattered. And me? I was treated like luggage. Then it happened. Half an hour into the evening, Vanessa climbed onto the small stage near the center of the room. She tapped the microphone, smiling widely. "Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming to support such an important cause." Applause filled the room. She waited, enjoying it. Then her gaze landed on me. "And of course," she continued, voice sweet, "special thanks to my family for always supporting me." My parents beamed. "And Elaine," Vanessa added, tilting her head, "thank you for showing up. I know it must be difficult being around people who actually succeeded." The room chuckled politely. Heat crawled up my neck. Vanessa wasn't done. She lifted her glass. "Some people dream big," she said, "and some people, well, stay exactly where they are." More laughter. My mother smiled like she was proud. Dad nodded as if Vanessa was delivering wisdom. I didn't react. I simply sat still, hands folded neatly. Vanessa leaned closer to the microphone, eyes glittering. "In fact," she said, "the club almost didn't allow Elaine in tonight." The room quieted slightly. Vanessa sighed dramatically. "They have standards, you know. Dress codes. Membership rules. It's not a place for." She trailed off, letting people fill in the insult. Then she smiled brightly. "But don't worry. I told them she's family. Even if she doesn't exactly belong here." That did it. A man at a nearby table laughed loudly. "Harsh," he said, amused. My sister raised her glass. "To family. Even the ones you have to tolerate." Applause. My mother clapped. Dad smiled. And in that moment, something inside me went very still. Because they thought this was the end of the story. They thought humiliating me was the punchline. They had no idea it was the opening scene. After the speech, Vanessa returned to the crowd, basking in attention. My mother leaned toward me. "See," she whispered, "just smile. Don't make a scene." I looked at her. "I'm not making a scene," I said quietly. Vanessa approached again, champagne in hand. "Elaine," she said softly, like a warning, "don't sulk. People notice." "I'm fine." She smirked. "You always say that. That's your problem. You just accept things." Then she lowered her voice. "Honestly, I don't know why you even come. This isn't your life. This isn't your place." I met her eyes. And smiled. "Maybe not," I said. Vanessa blinked. My calm unsettled her more than anger ever could. She waved dismissively. "Whatever. Just don't ruin tonight. She turned away, already forgetting me. That's when my father stood up suddenly. His voice boomed across the table. "Excuse me," he called, raising a hand. A nearby staff member approached. "Yes, sir?" Dad frowned sharply. "This girl," he said, gesturing at me like I was a stain, "doesn't belong here." The staff member hesitated. Vanessa looked amused. Dad continued, louder. "We want to speak to the owner." The words rang through the ballroom. People nearby turned. My mother added quickly, "Yes." Immediately, Vanessa folded her arms, smiling like a queen watching judgment. Dad pointed. "She's embarrassing us. She shouldn't even be allowed in this club." The staff member looked confused. "Sir, she came with you." Dad snapped. "That doesn't matter. Get the owner. Now." Vanessa leaned toward my mother. "Watch this," she murmured. "This will be funny." My mother sighed dramatically. "Elaine, why do you insist on showing up where you don't belong?" I didn't answer. I just sat calmly, hands still folded. The staff member hurried away. A ripple of whispers spread around us. People watched openly now. The humiliation Vanessa wanted was becoming a spectacle. Mom leaned closer. "Say sorry," she hissed. "Just apologize and leave." I turned slightly. "For what?" Her mouth opened. Dad slammed his palm on the table. "Enough. Owner. Now." And then, the room shifted. Because someone was walking toward us. Not the owner. Not security. But the general manager of Halston Country Club himself. A tall man in an immaculate suit, expression unreadable. He approached our table slowly, eyes scanning. Dad stood up straight, puffing with authority. Finally, Vanessa thought. Finally, the moment where Elaine gets removed. Dad spoke first, loud and proud. "Yes. About time. This woman shouldn't be here. She doesn't belong. We demand she be escorted out immediately." The manager listened. Then he looked at me. And something in his eyes changed. Recognition. Not irritation. Not confusion. Respect. The entire table went silent. Vanessa's smirk faltered. My mother swallowed. Dad frowned. The manager didn't respond to my father. Instead, he smiled at me. And said, clearly, calmly, in front of everyone. "Ma'am, how would you like to handle your family's membership?" The air cracked. My mother froze. Vanessa's champagne glass trembled. Dad's face went blank. And the ballroom, filled with wealthy laughter moments before, went completely silent. For a moment, I thought my father might not have heard him correctly. His face was still arranged in arrogance, like he expected the manager to nod, apologize, and remove me as instructed. Vanessa's lips were curved in a smug half-smile that hadn't yet caught up with reality. My mother's eyes darted between the manager and me, confused by the sudden shift in tone. The manager stood calmly, hands folded in front of him. "Ma'am," he repeated gently, addressing me only, "how would you like to handle your family's membership?" The words landed like a stone dropped into a crystal glass. Vanessa blinked. "Excuse me?" My father's voice rose, sharp. No, you misunderstood. We're asking you to remove her." The manager didn't even glance at my father. He kept his eyes on me. "I'm very sorry for the disturbance," he said, voice smooth and professional. "We were not informed you would be attending tonight." Vanessa's face tightened. "Informed? Who exactly do you think she is?" My father scoffed. "She's nobody. She's my daughter, yes, but she doesn't belong." The manager's expression cooled. "Sir," he said quietly, finally turning, with respect. "Ms. Elaine Harper is not, nobody, here." My mother's breath caught. Vanessa's smile cracked. Dad's brows knitted. "What?" The manager gestured subtly toward the velvet rope entrance near the ballroom doors. "Ms. Harper holds a private legacy membership," he explained, calm but firm. "One of the rare founding memberships. Halston Country Club does not grant those lightly." The air felt suddenly too thin. Vanessa laughed nervously. "That's impossible. We've been members for years." The manager nodded. "You have a sponsored social membership," he said politely. "Through Ms. Vanessa Harper's corporate partner program." Vanessa's cheeks flushed. "And Elaine?" she snapped. The manager's gaze returned to me with unmistakable respect. "Ms. Harper's membership predates that program by decades." My father's face drained of color. Dad opened his mouth, then closed it again. My mother whispered, barely audible, "Decades?" Vanessa's voice trembled with disbelief. "Elaine doesn't even come here." The manager inclined his head. "She doesn't need to." Silence spread across the table like ink. People nearby had stopped pretending to mind their business. Conversations died. Eyes watched openly. Phones hovered discreetly. My father cleared his throat harshly. This is ridiculous," he said. "Elaine works some ordinary job." "She's not." The manager's voice turned sharper, the politeness slipping. Sir, he said, Ms. Harper's name is engraved on our legacy wall. She is listed as a principal benefactor of Halston's Restoration Fund. Vanessa's champagne glass slipped slightly in her fingers. My mother's lips parted. Dad's voice cracked. Restoration Fund. The manager nodded once. 3 years ago, Halston's ownership nearly changed hands, he said. The club was saved by a private investor. Ms. Harper. The room seemed to tilt. My sister stared at me like she was seeing a ghost. You? Vanessa whispered. I finally unfolded my hands. I didn't smile. I didn't gloat. I simply looked at her calmly. Yes. Vanessa shook her head violently. No, that's not true. The manager's tone was quiet but absolute. It is very true. My father's voice rose suddenly, panicked now. Elaine, what is this? What are you doing? I turned slightly toward him. What am I doing? I echoed softly. My mother whispered, Elaine, please, don't cause a scene. Cause a scene. Even now, she cared only about appearances. Vanessa's voice sharpened into accusation. You're lying. You're trying to embarrass me. The manager stepped forward, and for the first time, his authority filled the space. Ms. Vanessa Harper, he said evenly, this behavior is unacceptable. Halston does not tolerate harassment of its members, especially not a legacy benefactor. Vanessa's face flushed crimson. Dad snapped, she's my daughter. I can speak to her however I want. The manager's eyes hardened. Not here, he said. Not in this club. Silence. Then, softly, the manager turned back to me. Ma'am, would you like us to escort them out? The question hung in the air like a blade. My father's mouth opened in shock. My mother gasped quietly. Vanessa froze completely, like her world had suddenly lost gravity. Escorting them out. The humiliation they had planned for me. Reversed. In front of everyone. Vanessa whispered, Elaine? Her voice had changed. No longer mocking. Now afraid. I looked at my family. My mother clutching her scarf. My father standing rigid. My sister trembling with disbelief. I thought of all the small moments. The warnings. The insults disguised as jokes. The way they treated me like an afterthought. Like I was lucky to exist in their orbit. And I realized, they never asked who I was. They never cared. Because they believed they already knew. I took a slow breath. Then I spoke, calmly. No, I said. The manager blinked. Ma'am? I kept my voice steady. Don't escort them out. Vanessa's shoulders sagged in sudden relief. My mother exhaled shakily. Dad's posture loosened. But then I continued. Just cancel their membership. The air snapped. Vanessa's head jerked up. Dad's face went blank. My mother's hand flew to her mouth. Vanessa whispered, horrified, what? The manager nodded once, as if he had been waiting for permission. Yes, ma'am. Dad exploded. You can't do that. I turned toward him slowly. I can, I said softly. Vanessa's voice shook. Elaine, stop. You're being insane. I tilted my head. Insane, I repeated. Like you were insane when you mocked me on stage? Vanessa flinched. Dad's voice was frantic now. This is a misunderstanding. We're family. Family. Only when they needed me. The manager stepped back, pulling out a tablet. Effective immediately, he said, voice formal, Mr. and Mrs. Harper, and Ms. Vanessa Harper's sponsored membership privileges are suspended pending review. My mother's eyes filled with panic. Elaine, please? Vanessa's lips trembled violently. You can't take this from me. I looked at her. You took something from me first. Vanessa whispered, what? I leaned slightly closer, voice quiet enough that only she could hear. My dignity. Her eyes widened. The manager signaled discreetly. 2 security staff began approaching, not toward me, toward them. The reversal was complete. My father stood shaking, his authority evaporating in real time. Vanessa's voice cracked. Elaine, why didn't you tell us? I stared at her. You never asked. Silence. Then, quietly, I stood. The manager stepped aside respectfully. As I walked past my family, my mother reached out. Elaine, wait. I paused for half a second. Not out of obedience, out of finality. Then I said softly, without turning back. You wished I didn't belong here. I took another step. Now you know what that feels like. And I walked away while the ballroom held its breath. Behind me, I heard Vanessa sob. My father arguing, my mother pleading, and security calmly escorting them toward the exit. Outside the hall, the night air was cool. The manager followed at a respectful distance. Ms. Harper, he said quietly, I'm sorry you experienced that tonight. I looked at him. Thank you, I said. He hesitated. Would you like the owner to be informed? I smiled faintly. The owner already knows. His brows lifted. I met his eyes. Because I am. The words weren't a boast. They were truth. And somewhere behind us, my family's world was collapsing, not because I destroyed it, but because they built it on the belief that I was nothing. The manager's face didn't change when I said it. He only nodded slightly, as if it explained everything he had already sensed. Yes, ma'am, he replied quietly. Of course. Behind the ballroom doors, I could still hear the muffled chaos. My father's voice rising in protest, my mother's frantic pleading, Vanessa's sobbing disbelief. The kind of collapse that happens when people realize too late that the person they dismissed was holding more power than they ever imagined. I didn't go back inside. I didn't need to, because the spectacle wasn't the victory. The truth was, I walked through the corridor lined with framed photographs of past benefactors, families in tuxedos, women in gowns, smiles frozen in expensive history. My heels echoed softly on marble. This place had always existed in my life like a distant planet. Not because I couldn't reach it, but because I never wanted to. I could have flaunted my membership years ago. I could have worn it like armor, thrown it in my family's face every time they called me ordinary. But I didn't, because I didn't want their respect. I wanted peace. And peace doesn't come from proving yourself to people who only value you when you're useful. Outside, the night air was sharp and clean. The valet area glowed under soft lights. A few guests stood in clusters, whispering, glancing toward the exit where security had just escorted my family out. Vanessa stumbled into view first. Her mascara was smudged, her silver gown suddenly looking ridiculous without her confidence to carry it. She spotted me immediately. Elaine, she cried, rushing forward. One of the security staff raised a hand to stop her, but I lifted my fingers slightly. It's fine. Vanessa halted a few feet away, chest heaving like she'd run miles. Why? She demanded, voice breaking. Why didn't you tell us? I studied her face. It was strange how quickly arrogance becomes desperation when power shifts. You want the honest answer? I asked softly. Vanessa swallowed hard. Yes. I nodded once. Because it never mattered, I said. She blinked. What? My life, my work, my success, I continued calmly. You never cared. You only cared tonight because it happened in front of people you wanted to impress. Vanessa flinched as if struck. That's not true. It is, I said gently. If the manager had escorted me out like you wanted, you would have laughed about it for years. Her lips trembled. I was joking. You were cruel, I corrected. Behind her, my father stormed out. His face was red with rage, tie loosened, the confident patriarch mask ripped away. Elaine, he shouted. What the hell have you done? I turned slowly toward him. What have I done? I repeated. My father jabbed a finger toward the club doors. You humiliated us. You destroyed our reputation. My mother appeared beside him, eyes wide and wet, clutching her scarf like a lifeline. Elaine, sweetheart, she pleaded, please. Let's talk privately. Privately. So they could control the narrative. So they could make me small again. I looked at my mother. Did you clap when Vanessa mocked me on stage? I asked softly. Her mouth opened. No sound came. I looked at my father. Did you demand the owner to remove me because you thought I didn't belong? He stiffened. You're my daughter. I am, I said. And yet you spoke about me like I was a stain. Vanessa whispered, Dad? My father's voice rose again, desperate now. You think money makes you better? I smiled faintly. No, I said. It just reveals what was always there. He scoffed. You've always been jealous of Vanessa. I laughed softly. Jealous? I echoed. Then my voice turned quiet and sharp. I was invisible to you. Jealousy requires being seen. Silence. That one sentence landed harder than shouting ever could. My mother's eyes filled with tears. Elaine, we didn't know? I tilted my head. You didn't want to know. Vanessa's voice cracked. How did this even happen? How are you, the owner? I exhaled slowly. I didn't become anything overnight, I said. I've been building for years while you were busy laughing. My father's face tightened. Building what? I looked at him. A business, I replied simply. His brows furrowed. What business? I smiled. The one you've been using without realizing. My father froze. My mother whispered, what? I continued calmly. 3 years ago, when Halston was drowning in debt, it wasn't your connections that saved it. It was my investment firm. Vanessa's mouth fell open. You have an investment firm? I nodded. A beat. My father's voice went hoarse. That's impossible. You work in consulting. I smiled again. That was the job I told you about so you'd stop asking questions. My father staggered slightly, anger mixing with disbelief. You lied to us? I held his gaze. You never deserved the truth, I said softly. You only wanted proof I was beneath you. My mother's tears spilled now. Elaine, please, we are family. Family. They kept trying to use the word like a rope to pull me back. But ropes can become chains. And I was done wearing them. I took one slow step forward. You don't get to call me family only when you're losing, I said quietly. Vanessa sobbed. I didn't know. I looked at her. You didn't care, I corrected gently. That's worse. My father's voice shook. So what now? He demanded. You strip us of everything? You throw us out like strangers? I considered him for a long moment. Then I answered calmly. No. His face tightened. No? I nodded. I'm not here to destroy your life, I said. I'm here to end my place in it. My mother gasped softly. Elaine, I'll reinstate nothing, I continued. You can find another club. Another stage. Another audience. Vanessa whispered, broken, please. I looked at her with a quiet finality. The next time you want to feel powerful, I said, try being kind instead. Silence. My father's shoulders sagged as the reality settled in. He hadn't lost money. He had lost control, the thing he valued most. I turned toward the waiting car the valet had brought around. The manager stood nearby, respectful, silent. As I reached for the door, my mother's voice cracked behind me. Elaine, I paused, not turning. I'm sorry, she whispered. I believed she meant it. But apologies don't rewrite decades. I spoke softly. I hope you are, I said. For your sake. And then I got into the car. As it pulled away, I looked through the window one last time. My family stood under the club's lights, smaller than they had ever seemed. Not because I had grown taller, but because I had stopped kneeling. The next morning, Vanessa's friends called her. My parents' social circle whispered. Rumors spread, but for the first time in my life, their opinion wasn't my prison. Halston Country Club continued as it always had, exclusive, polished, arrogant. But somewhere in its history, one quiet correction had been made. The girl they thought didn't belong was the one who owned the doors. And my family? They learned something they never expected. The person you dismiss the longest is often the one with the keys.